guys, and welcome to Petrolhead London. So this is a video a few people have been asking for, and I mentioned in my very first one and a couple of the others, this is the 5 things I love and the 5 things I hate about my F-Type. Now, as I've said before, I think hate is a very strong word when you're talking about this car, because it's just pretty beautiful all over, pretty good. Just going to turn the exhaust off, maybe slightly less noise. So, you know, where do we start on this one? So for me, the number one thing, which is kind of why I first started looking at F-Type, is the design and the styling. I just think this is an absolutely beautiful car. You know, I know there's been a lot of references to how it harps back to, you know, kind of using some of the F-Type design. I mean, the fact that bonnet is one single piece of metal that lifts up, I believe it's the largest single piece of aluminium on a vehicle. I mean, it's just, I mean, it doesn't help with the performance, it doesn't help with, you know, how you look at it, but it's just quite cool. There's lots of other little design features, so like the air vents in the centre here that raise up. You know, your first thought is, wow, that's something that's bound to go wrong. But actually, just the way they kind of majestically lift out of the dashboard is just like a really nice touch. And I think those kind of design things come from, you know, in the earlier Jaguars where you had the drive selector switch that used to raise up. You know, it's just nice design. There's other little things like the door handles, the way that they just pop out and slide back in. And you know, whenever I've shown friends around this car, some of them are always like, oh yeah, that's really cool, I like that. So number 2 has to be the sound. Now, no matter how much of a boy racer is or isn't in you, the sound of this car is amazing. Flick it over into dynamic mode, especially with this button down here, which we've seen before in some of the other videos. You know, everything goes red. It's kind of like I am poised to kind of, you know, be this aggressive sports car. As you slow down through those corners and basically burning extra fuel as it pops and crackles through the exhaust pipe, just an amazing sound. It's just great, and it's really addictive. The first day I took this out around the country roads, you know, all I wanted to do was kind of like keep shifting gears just to get that pop and crackle. And I think you tend to drive it in a lot kind of not necessarily aggressive manner, but you tend to have the revs a lot higher and stuff, just so you get those sounds, especially with the roof down. So number 3, I talked about this in my last video. So this is kind of like, and I kind of just alluded to it there, it's its flexibility. I'm on the motorway today, as you can see. I'm off somewhere for a meeting, and you know, just sitting on the motorway. I mean, I actually have got it in sports, but you just put it in drive, use the cruise control if you want. Actually, the roof's pretty solid, like great construction, so there's not masses of road noise for its feedback. And by that, I mean, I've driven a lot of cars, and you know, you get a lot of feedback from the, you know, a real sense of where it is on the road, where its limits are. In particular, you know, 911s I do love, and I think you're kind of either a lover or a hater of those. They're a bit Marmite, but you never quite felt like you knew where the edges were with it. And the same with the Boxster as well, even with that mid-engine, always slightly on edge that it might bite you. And this car just, it's a really solid car. You know, I think there's a lot of talk about the electronic steering on these. It's really positive. It's very, I think somebody referred to it as a point and shoot when I was talking. So number 5. And number 5 is, it's relatively rare. So, okay, it's not like hypercar, supercar kind of rare, but actually there's kind of like a novelty factor about it as well. I went away for a weekend on a road trip recently, and it was sat outside the pub. We were staying in some rooms. There were 8 people standing around my car, and they were kind of like pointing bits out, almost kind of critiquing it. I mean, I couldn't hear what they were saying, but you know, that's what it kind of looked like from the gesticulation. People kind of love you know, there's this association with it being a British car, and I think people kind of like, they love that. They kind of like, you know, maybe it's like the underdog these days, you know, a good British sports car. And I think it also goes back to the kind of the styling as well. You know, people just love the look of it, and it really draws people in. Some of you may not know, this car was designed as a cabriolet first. You know, arguably I'm probably more of a fan of the coupe. So yeah, this car was specifically designed as a cabaret. You know, the coupe's obviously got a bit more space, but you know, I think I don't know. I do love this car. I mean, I wouldn't have bought it anyway. I think I've said before I fell in lust with it, which is why I started sort of doing a lot of research and looking to buy one. So that is number 5. Number 1's design and styling. 2 is the sound. 3 is the flexibility of it, sports car versus cruiser. 4 is kind of its trustability, and I suppose actually drivability is probably a better way of putting it. Number 5 is it's kind of like its novelty value, the fact that it's relatively rare. 5 things I hate. Now, to be honest, this is more of a list of nitpicks around tiny little things about the car. It's a really difficult car to hate. I've kind of talked about this before. This car actually feels really wide. Visibility is not awesome when it comes to park. The parking sensors are a bit oversensitive, so actually you've got way more room than actually makes out when it's telling you it's red and you're on top of the car in front. So paint finish is my next one. Now, I've read a lot about this on a lot of forums, people picking up about the quality of the paint finish, and I'm thinking about doing a video around like the difference between kind of German and English cars, kind of like, you know, the things I've noticed, but you just don't see like the love and care. And I've got a couple of little spots on this car where it's just they haven't finished it properly in the factory. You know, it's just a little bit matte finished or a little bit rough on the finish. Now, maybe I'm particularly fussy, but it's an expensive car, and like, why didn't you finish it properly in the first place? My third one is too many options. There's not enough things as standard. This car's got quite a few things, but things like heated seats. I mean, I can't remember what the base price for these is, but they're like 60 odd grand new. No heated seats are standard. It's insane, right? Nearly every other car in the market has this. It's almost harping back to the days of like when BMW didn't put radios in their car. I mean, I think things have moved on. So my point about the parking is this doesn't have a rear, like a dip mirror. And that's because it doesn't have the preset electric seats. So it's got partial seat controls here, but it doesn't have like the presets, which, to be honest, I'm not that bothered about. But apparently you only get the rear dip mirror if you have the presets. So it comes in 3 different flavours. It comes in what I like to refer to as, like, they have the Meridian one, which is the Dogs Doodles one, the top of the range. And the Meridian one's really good. You know, I've heard it. It's got bass speakers behind the seat, or subs, I think. However, this one, and then there's a medium one, which is like a slightly high-powered standard one, and then there's the standard one. Now, I do like my music, and ideally I would have gone for a better stereo. I had a harder carbon one in my AMG, which was excellent. This has got the standard one, and it's shit. As a friend of mine said to me, you know, what you would expect is the standard one to be really good, the middle one to be excellent, and the top of the range one to be blow your mind. However, I kind of feel they end at the kind of really good stage. So I've kind of combined my kind of 3 and 4 into one. So 3 is just a sunrun, not enough options, you know, too many options even. 4 is the stereo's pretty naff, which kind of falls into the options bit anyway. And my 5th one is, you know, scrabbling around to find things really, is the boot's really small. So actually, I've got a road trip to Europe planned in the summer. It's just quite small to fit anything in. So actually with 2 of you in, taking all your stuff, you know, compared to other cars I've had in the past, you know, especially 911, where there's loads of space in the front boot. There's just nothing in the back really, you know, you're really limited and got to do some clever packing. There's definitely no bringing any wine home. There's no real space behind the seats. You know, at least in other, you know, 2-seaters I've had, you can flick the seats forward, where these you have to electronically wind it all the way forward. So it's not really very easy to kind of store stuff there. Trying to find things to hate on here is really difficult. And man, the things that I love so outweigh that on this car. Anyway, I hope you've found this video informative. We are going on a motorcycle road trip next. Thank you very much for watching Petrol Excellent.